Dodge. I wrote and narrated Journal Entry Part 3. Thank you so much for listening. I went to Part 3. Part 2 isn't done yet. I've decided that it's not going to be, like, these are all stories from different people's perspectives, but they could also be from the same perspective. So far, there is obviously some form of connective tissue there, as far as the journal entry standpoint of someone writing in a diary and sharing how they're feeling. But there are little bits of language there that can kind of resonate. 2/18/22. He's mad at me again. He just left my office saying, "Stay the fuck away from me." It all started the other day. I was still in bed when he walked into the room sulking before flopping down next to me, laying his head on my lap. He told me to touch his hair. When I started to ask him what was wrong, he cut me off mid-sentence, telling me I don't want to talk. So I just laid there in silence, continuing to play with his hair until he asked me to check the mail. I told him I didn't want to talk. I could feel his neck and shoulders tighten. Are you telling me no? I had watched a couple of documentaries about women and men dealing with spousal abuse, and I felt like it was a voice that needed to be heard. There's a lot of, I don't know, there's a lot of horror stories about spousal abuse, but I never really heard it from my standpoint. Like, I never really heard it from, the way I wrote it. I can't explain it. Like, there's a voice there that I felt hadn't been heard yet when it came to women dealing with it. And so I had to sit in a really dark place for a while I was writing it. I feel like there's still so much to be said, but I decided to leave it there for now, partially because I felt like adding more would actually take away from it. I felt like what the listener is able to do with their own minds, to fill in with their own minds and their thoughts, I felt like that would enhance the story in a way. I really like this story because it's told as someone who's writing in their diary, right? So, they're not going to get into a lot of detail. It's almost as if they're confiding in someone who they know is going to keep their secret. So they're not going to go into a lot of detail about it. And so the listener sort of has to fill in the blanks themselves, which I love. What happens when the reader is able to fill in the blanks themselves, then they're able to make it their own. They're able to fill in the spaces with their own experiences or their own feelings, and it feels more personal to them that way. And while narrating it, that was tough, because you have this person talking about living in fear and feeling as if they're going to be killed any moment. They can see it in their head. They're talking about something horrible, you know? But the way they say it is just so, it's flat. It's like they're just talking about their day, you know? Yeah, I imagine him kicking me in the head and stabbing me in my heart and spitting in my face. And, you know, they're just talking about it like, you know, I went to the store, I bought some milk. It was 2% milk. I got it on sale. You know what I mean? Like it's nothing. And something that I noticed a lot about watching the documentaries and, you know, seeing women in my life as well who have been in abusive relationships, how they are numb to it. Like it's not that big a deal. Because they have to deal with shoving their emotions just down and just negating how they feel. And you know, you can't get emotional. You can't. It's like living with a angry bear. Like you just don't want to set it off, so you stuff it all down, and you just. It's all about survival at that point, right? Like you can't. This is fine. You know, that mentality. This is fine. If I just do what I need to do for them not to get angry, if I just shut it down and don't emote and don't make ripples in the water, like everything will be fine. I don't know if things will get better, but right now things are going to be fine. I'll be able to make it from point A to point B if I just like you're in a room with something that will just destroy you if you say or do anything wrong. And I saw that in the documentary. You know, I saw that when they were interviewing the women in it, and they were talking about their situations. Oh my God, it was horrible. The horrible things they had to go through, that he had to go through, that the kids had to go through. And they're just like talking about it so nonchalantly. Because after a while, once you just keep stuffing it down so much, it doesn't come back up anymore. Like you just, it's hard to feel. And so when I was narrating it, so, you know, it's flat. It was flat. But I think that the beautiful part of it was that she's talking about getting murdered, about getting killed by someone that she loves and is terrified of. She's speaking calmly. But as soon as she starts talking about how she doesn't want to worry her mom, how she sent her mom a good, like, "I love you, Mom" text, then she starts getting emotional. Then it bubbles up for her and she cannot contain it anymore, because just the thought of that just really just tore her apart. And even though she starts crying, it's still not, she's still not crying out loud. She's still not bawling, or, it's still subdued because it hurts. But she still can't make it hurt enough to just start crying out loud and bawling. That's just, that's just how it was. That's how it came out to me. um, mixing it together. So the music in it is like a melancholy guitar acoustic song, but you can tell in the background that it shifts. Does that make sense? You can tell when it starts to slow down. You can tell when it starts to get deeper, or and slow down. And I wanted the tempo of it to go from normal to slow. And at first I was like, that's too noticeable. That's going to take too much away from the story. But then I was like, no. I'm going to leave it like this, because I felt like it was very it was so much like the story, how you're in a relationship, right? It's normal, sort of, it's good. And then it shifts. And you notice when it shifts, like something isn't right, And then after a while, it becomes normal. It becomes okay. You notice that the song changes. It gets slower. It might get higher at some point, or jangly, or whatever. But then after a while, the music it fades back. And just like in a relationship, it gets bad, and then it sort of becomes the new norm, in a way. It's the frog in the boiling pot, in a way, this is wrong. Something in this relationship is wrong, but it's fine. I can deal with it. It's fine. It's not bad. It's just something's not right, but it's fine. It's fine. Things will either get better, or it's fine. And so you stay there in that pot that's getting hotter and hotter, and then it gets different again. Things get worse again. The music changes again. It gets darker. It gets slower. It gets more what's the word? I'll just say it gets darker. And then it just becomes the new norm. Becomes the new norm. You notice something's wrong, but you still stay with it and you adjust. Oh my gosh, there's so much adjusting. You adjust, and your pain tolerance gets higher and higher until you just want in the story, she said, I almost hope, I wish that he would hit me so that I can feel anything. Just feel. And like your tolerance just gets so high, and then it becomes the new norm. It becomes the new norm, and it becomes normal. And it just fades into the background again. The music fades into the background again. And before you know it, you're sitting in, you're hiding in a closet. Just trying not to poke the bear, just trying to survive throughout the day. Just trying not to make waves in the water. So So I left the music in that way. I wonder if anyone noticed. That's fine. As long as I know what I did, as long as I noticed, that's fine. I will take that. I will take that. And so the story ends abruptly with she goes through so many different scenarios in her mind. The dark scenarios in her mind, recounting what has happened in the past and just anticipating what'll happen in the future. And so the story ends abruptly, but just based on what she's said and what she's written, you have an idea that this isn't going to be good. He's running up the stairs. He's opening the door fiercely. He's like opening it hard. And you're just like, this isn't going to end well. Something horrible is about to happen. You don't need to see it. You don't need to hear it. You just know that this is not going to be good, and she may not make this out. She may not make it out okay. You just know that. This isn't going to have a happy ending. Like, hopefully, this will be the gasoline. Hopefully this. If she makes it out, if she gets out of this alive, hopefully this will be the catalyst that gets her out of that pot, out of that boiling pot. Just, that's the only thing you can hope for in this situation. That's the only thing the women in the documentary could hope for, really. They went through some horrible stuff. And, family can try to save them. But, they can't be saved unless they want to be saved. So sometimes they go back. Family will take them away, but sometimes they go back. He or she goes back. He or she calls them, tells them that everything's different, they'll do better. They've changed. They love them. They can't live without them. They need them. If they don't come back, they'll do something horrible, and so they come back. And things might be fine for a little bit, but then they go back to the way they were before. If you want to watch the documentary yourself, I'll leave a link to it. I don't know if it'll play outside the States, but yeah, I'll leave the information for it. It's heavy stuff, man. Not for the faint of heart. If you have any other questions about the story, any other questions you want me to answer, feel free to let me know. I love questions. I love writing. I don't do it enough. I'm usually reading it more than writing it, but I've read so much amazing stuff that it's inspired me to want to write more, so thank y'all for allowing me to share your work. If you're looking for more work like this, T.J. Lee wrote an amazing story. I'll leave a link to my narration of it in the description as well. It was a live stream read, actually. But yeah, heavy stuff. Thank Thank you so much for listening. You'll have a great rest of your week. I will see y'all soon. Bye, guys.